A devastating reality is unfolding in Gaza's medical tents. 1 in every 3 patients treated for traumatic wounds is a child. But here's where it gets truly alarming. These aren't just statistics. They represent a generation caught in the crossfire of urban warfare. Published in the prestigious medical journal The Lancet, data from Médecins Sans Frontières, MSF, reveals that in 2024, children under the age of 15 accounted for nearly a third of all outpatient wound care at their 6 field hospitals, which are primarily located in the devastated southern and central regions of Gaza. These facilities conducted an astounding 90,000-plus wound consultations last year. And this is the part most people miss. Nearly half of these devastating injuries were directly caused by bombs, shelling, or gunfire. The human cost of the conflict, which began after Hamas's attack on Israel in October 2023, is staggering. The Gaza Health Ministry's count, which the British government has acknowledged as a reasonable figure, estimates the death toll has surpassed 62,000. Of these, a heartbreaking majority, over half, are women and children. Controversially, a recent investigation by The Guardian, citing a classified Israeli military intelligence database, suggests the civilian death toll could be even more severe, indicating that as many as 5 out of every 6 Palestinians killed were non-combatants. This raises a profoundly difficult question. Are the stated precautions to avoid civilian casualties truly feasible in such a dense urban environment? Israeli officials maintain they take every possible precaution and accuse Hamas of using civilians as human shields, a point that is fiercely debated. The violence continues to target the very infrastructure meant to provide solace. In a single devastating incident, Israel struck the Nasser Hospital, the last major public hospital in southern Gaza, not once, but twice. The second strike hit just 15 minutes after the first, as rescue crews and journalists arrived on the scene, killing 20 people, including 5 members of the press. While fatalities capture headlines, the crisis of the wounded receives less attention. Over 150,000 people have been injured. According to Gaza health authorities, MSF explains the horrific nature of these wounds. Explosive weapons are designed for open battlefields, not crowded cities. The organization notes that in 2 of its hospitals, nearly 60% of lower limb wounds from these weapons resulted in severe open injuries to bone and muscle. The flimsy makeshift tents that displaced families call home offer no protection from blasts, shrapnel, or incendiary effects. And here's a critical point often overlooked. MSF warns that their data likely underreports the true scale of suffering. The most vulnerable populations, infants, the elderly, and people with disabilities, often cannot escape the impact zones or reach help, meaning many immediate fatalities and injuries go entirely unrecorded. The health crisis is compounded by the apocalyptic living conditions. With sanitation systems destroyed and most people living in tents, even simple domestic or road accidents become major medical events. In fact, just over half of the wound cases MSF treated were due to these unsafe living conditions, not direct conflict. MSF itself is on the brink, facing such critical shortages that it has been forced to ration patient meals to just 1 or 2 per day, and warns it may soon have no food to offer at all. The organization has issued a desperate plea for an immediate ceasefire and for Israel to allow impartial, unrestricted medical aid into Gaza. Israeli authorities counter that they have facilitated the entry of massive amounts of supplies, citing over 45,000 tons of medical equipment delivered by 3,000 trucks. However, this official narrative is directly contested by UN agencies and doctors on the ground, who report a dire shortage of everything from anesthesia to bandages. The NGO Physicians for Human Rights attributes this life-threatening gap to the limited and delayed flow of humanitarian aid permitted by Israeli authorities. This conflict, triggered by a Hamas attack that killed 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and saw roughly 250 taken hostage, has created an immeasurable human tragedy on both sides. What is the international community's responsibility when the data suggests such a high proportion of civilian casualties? Is the provision of aid, as it stands, sufficient, or is it a bureaucratic process failing those in most desperate need? We welcome your thoughts and perspectives in the comments below.